legends. I hope you're all fantastic. It is time for another installment of Friday Q&A, where I do my best to answer all of your questions from last week's Q&A session. If you've got a question you would like to submit for next week's Q&A, simply put it in the comments section below and I will do my best to get to it next week. If you like what I do here on YouTube and you want to support my channel directly, there are a number of different ways you can do that. Just check the video description. You can also get some free cabinet IRs and you can come and join the Discord server as well if you check that description. Let's get into this week's questions. Let's begin with the good stuff this week. Have I ever been mistaken for Yanni? Believe it or not, I never have. It's probably the lack of moustache. You know, Yanni's moustache is a glorious thing, and I'm convinced, like Samson's hair, Yanni's musical powers reside in their moustache. I've had Colin Farrell, I've had somebody come up to me and say I look like Johnny Depp, which is like kind of the furthest thing away possible. A bunch of other people in there. When I shave my beard, I've had people say Steve Vai. Steve's got way better cheekbones than I will ever have though. And I once had a French guy in Switzerland shout out Paul Gilbert for an entire gig in between songs, saying that I reminded him of Paul Gilbert. And that's about the only set of words that we had in common. He said Paul Gilbert and I was saying Paul Gilbert, and I'm sure all of you agree, Paul Gilbert. Ronnie Montrose, to me, belongs along with Pat Travis, Frank Marino, Robin Trower. Who else would I put into that kind of category? Maybe Kerry Livgren from Kansas, as in my top 5 to 10 unsung guitar heroes from the 70s. Ronnie, obviously, being a part of Montrose, the band, who, most people would kind of call the American Led Zeppelin. Kind of hard to disagree with that one. Obviously, Sammy Hagar got their start with Montrose, but also Ted Templeman produced the first Montrose album. And when you go back and listen to some Montrose, and I really hope you will go back and listen to some Montrose after listening to this video, have a listen to the way it sounds, because you can kind of hear the evolution of the Ted Templeman thing, starting around the Montrose stuff and kind of culminating with the Van Halen stuff. And I really like the Montrose stuff, but I actually kind of like the first Gamma album the most out of all of them. It's from the late 70s, you've got some kind of more experimental effects making their way in. I think there's a song on there called Razor King, where Ronnie's playing this rhythmic delay thing that would, be popularized by players like The Edge and Alex Lifeson a little bit later. So yeah, kind of one of those players that I think, due to the way time and nostalgia works, kind of fell out of maybe the mainstream discussion about guitar heroes from the 70s, but somebody who belongs there. So go and check out some Montrose and listen to that first Gamma album. Do yourself a favor, in the words of Molly Meldrum. Well, we're talking about bands and we're talking about music. This question comes from patron Marcelo. The German band Rage, who kind of vaguely fit into the power metal genre. Have I spent much time listening to them? I actually haven't. I remember probably being about 17 or 18 and really getting into power metal, all the myriad forms of power metal, which we talked about last week. And I feel like I heard a few Rage songs, and for whatever reason, I ended up listening to Hammerfall and Camelot and Rhapsody a whole lot more than Rage. But if there's any Rage fans in the comments, let me know in the comment section below. And Marcelo, I'm going to do myself a favor. I'm going to check out some Rage. Feel free to let me know what I should start with. On the topic of power metal from last week, another great legendary patron of mine, Rutger, asked me that, the Ragdoll song Shine, that could kind of almost be a power metal song. And I wouldn't disagree with you there, especially the ending. The thing that I was vibing on with the ending of the song was the Blue Murder song, Valley of the Kings. The big ending section there where Sykes just goes ballistic. There's kind of like a big pickup, and if you have a listen to especially what the bass guitar's doing there, and then obviously Ryan is going beast mode on the vocals, yeah, that was kind of our like tip of the hat to that, big bombastic pompous late 80s sort of sound. So I think that probably has a lot to do with that comparison to power metal. I've had people come up to us and say, oh, you guys are kind of like power metal just without all the double bass drumming and all the double times. So I'll take it. How about a demo of the Boss GT8? When I was in high school, there's going to be story time right now, I had the Boss ME50 as my multi-effects unit, and then one of my best friends had the Boss GT6, the gold one. And I remember lusting after that GT6 because it had so many more features than the ME50. I've still got the ME50. I really, really like that unit. That was something that I actually ended up gigging with a lot over the years. And that was a gift from my parents on Christmas. And I learned so much about effects from that thing. In fact, I've got a really old video on my channel, I think called The Boss ME50 Doesn't Suck. And the comment section is basically just people loving their ME50. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, the GT6, I remember when that came out. Then I remember when the GT8 came out. And I feel like I saw a thing with George Lynch in a guitar magazine, which doesn't surprise me because George has probably played every single piece of gear before anybody else in the world. But it's probably worth tracking down a GT6 or a GT8 and, you know, doing what I do, which is trying out old gear, see how it goes, and then maybe load up the amp models with some impulse responses and see what we can get out of it. I don't know, is anybody here still rocking a Boss GT6 or GT8, or I think they had, was it a GT3 or was that an ME? Yeah, I can't remember. There's so many model names in there, but as always, you know where to leave your comments if you want me to do this. If I had to learn guitar from scratch, what are some things that I would do differently? And this kind of is a big philosophical question here. To me, that's almost like saying, hey, Leon, if you lived your life again, what would you do differently? I'm sure with the benefit of hindsight, there's a lot of things I would have done differently. You know, there's a lot of people I would have tried to just be a whole lot nicer to and maybe not treat like garbage. When it comes to playing guitar, there's probably also a whole bunch of guitars and songs that I would try not to treat like garbage. I would say probably the one thing is during my formative years, like a lot of people, you get really passionate about the music that you love, which for me was like rock music from the late 60s through to kind of the early 90s. And I wasn't super open to anything that wasn't that. And I kind of missed out a little bit on some really cool music while that music was happening that I definitely appreciate right now. Like I remember loving Linkin Park when Hybrid Theory came out, but I didn't really get into too much more nu metal aside from that. And, you know, I can listen to a band like Deftones now and kind of get it. I remember when the first Carnival album, Themata, came out here in Perth, that was like the biggest thing ever. And it just took me so long. It took me like 5 or 6 years to get around to listening to that album. So it's mostly an attitude thing, like, you know, be open to learning different styles and different types of music, but kind of like life, you need that benefit of hindsight. And it's more about, again, I say this a lot, you know, you want to try to be in a growth mindset when you're learning an instrument. And that took me a long time to realize. But again, like if I did things differently, I wouldn't be me and I wouldn't be playing like me. And I can kind of only be me and play like me. So that's a heavy question, man. Having said that, could I suggest maybe 5 things to work on as a guitar player that would be, you know, accessible to everybody? The things that I normally work on with my students are things like articulation and phrasing and, you know, something as simple as bending in tune and thinking about your vibrato. So I would say number 1 would be think about intentionality. Like when you do something, have a reason to do it. Number 2 would be record yourself a lot, especially playing rhythm guitar, and learn what it means to play ahead and behind and on the beat, and really work on being tight rhythmically. I don't know if I'm going to get to 5 here. You know, playing in tune is obviously very important. Showing up on time is obviously very important, and just trying to be a good person with the people that you work with. If you're playing on your own, you know, be kind to yourself and try not to beat up on your playing too bad, and try not to compare yourself to everybody else all the time. If you're playing in a band, just try to be a legend. Will I be checking out the new Universal Audio, you know, amp modeling pedal in a box pedals? I think you can just call them amp modeling pedals. I actually will. I've got the AC30 on the way. Big shout out to CMI Music here in Australia for sending me one of those on loan. So you're going to see a demo of that very, very soon. But I would highly recommend you go and check out the Michael Nielsen demo. I watched that yesterday, and you know, Mike's a tone meister and they sound really, really good. I'm pretty excited to check it out. A few guitars I haven't talked about on the channel for a while. My Dean V. I still got that guitar. In fact, friend of the channel, Mr. Troy Nababan, has that down at their studio. And I think Troy has played that doing their Docker Rocker thing at Optus Stadium a few times. So if you've gone to see the Fremantle Dockers play in Perth, you might have seen a Dean V on the roof of the stadium. Pretty sweet gig, and Troy absolutely kills it up there. The STR LJ1 I actually sold to one of my students, and they are playing that like there's no tomorrow, and it's just kind of great to see somebody on a guitar that they really connect with. So shout out to Dennis if you're watching this. I'm so stoked you're enjoying that guitar. I still have my Headway acoustic, which I play all the time, made by the same parent company device. Guitars with scallop fretboards, well, you probably actually haven't seen me playing this guitar too recently. I still play it, I just haven't been using it for demos, but this is a YJM neck and wiring harness on a Warmoth Mary Kay white body. It's got the big old Yngwie style scallops, and yeah, for anybody who likes the Yngwie thing, these necks are pretty awesome. I love this guitar. If you're on Discord, you would have seen the photo that I posted. I got a Mac Studio recently. Yes, I am gonna do a video talking about that from a home studio perspective. I'm just currently in the phase of trying to see how many virtual instruments I can run at one time in a Pro Tools session and how quickly I can export videos, which is a whole lot faster than my old 2012 Mac Mini. It was definitely time to upgrade. I just got the base model, I think, with the M1 Max chip, but it's probably overkill for what I need here, but I will do a video either on that or just talking about my current YouTube video creation process for 2022. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you all have a great weekend. Put any questions for next week in the comments section below. And if you're in Perth and you want to come and catch a ragdoll show, we are opening up for John Karabi on the 11th of June. You can visit our Facebook page and check out all the details for that. I would love to see you there. See you next time.